Started. The flag salute. Allegiance to the flag of America, to the republic which it stands, nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Notice of this meeting has been provided in the Hopewell Valley News, Times Trentonian is posted on the borough website in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act. Then the roll call.
Mayor Kennedy, Mr. Buda, Ms. Baxter, here, Mr. Donaldson,
Here.
Ms. Lyons, here, Ms. Terry,
Here.
Mr. Young,
Here.
Ms. Toella,
Here.
Vice Chairman Burr, here, and Chairman Maxson.
Here. When you have a chance, take a look at the minutes and I'll entertain a motion to approve. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Same. Thank you. All right, we've got 14 vouchers on the agenda tonight, so I'll take a motion to approve the vouchers. So I have a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Same. Thank you. At this point, I'd like to open the meeting to the public for discussion of any items that are not on tonight's agenda.
I have something actually. I never brought that up.
Could you state your name for the record?
Sure. Susan Poor. I just have a question about like the appropriate process to communicate with the planning board. Because I know that at certain times you all have gotten information at the meeting that's been very dense. And I know we've talked to the council about a process by which information would be able to be given to you prior to a meeting, so you all have time to read it. And so I shared information, and the mayor said that that was probably a decision for the secretary to decide instead of it going by ordinance. So I'm just trying to understand.
So
Yeah.
if you have a topic that's not on the agenda or it's not related to an ongoing matter, you should send a letter or that information into the planning board secretary who will give it to the chair. And then disperse it. If it's relevant to an existing matter before the board, whether it's this case or another case, it doesn't get part of the record, so the board does not look at it or review it until it's qualified or until it's presented as part of the record. So you can't share information until you get to the board and then it gets marked into exhibit.
Okay, but is there a policy, like, so then what happens if new information is shared and that requires reading? Like, you couldn't vote on something until everybody had a chance to read that information, right?
You can summarize whatever information that you have as part of the public comment period.
Right, but my question is, if it is a big report, I can summarize, but like, what is the opportunity for the planning board to have time to read it and discuss it and really synthesize the information before then possibly voting on something?
Yeah, well, if the board needs more time, it will certainly ask the applicant to extend the municipal land use spot. And if the board, depending on what the topic is, what the report is, so if the board feels it needs more time to digest, it will ask for an extension and it will do so.
Interesting. Okay, thank you.
Seeing no one else come forward, I'm going to close the floor and we'll begin the public hearing for Hopewell 57. Christopher, you want to?
Yeah, so I think tonight, everyone, we're gonna leave off where we were last time. We want to dedicate tonight to public comment. It's an important part of the process and we want to do that as long as possible. So everybody has an opportunity to be heard. I think the chair will open the meeting and ask the applicant first to see if there's any new developments or changes, or give the applicant an opportunity to respond to any of the questions that were brought up by the public or spoken prior to this evening. After that, we're going to go right into the public comment period. If the chair will open it up, there's a list over here on the table. If you would like to speak, add your name to the list. If you're on the list and don't want to cross your name off, but we'll be moving from the list. I'm told that there's two experts, that were retained by, members of the public. We're gonna ask them to go first, so that they'll have the opportunity, to have that right at the beginning of our meeting tonight, and then we'll move on to the list. So,
Aren't we supposed to get the chance to ask more questions if we didn't get called on last time? We ran out of time.
let me just go through and then if you have some questions as part of your participation, you can ask the question. If you're up there, that I don't think the board, I don't think the chair is responsible for controlling the meeting. If it's a repetitive comment, or if it's not something that's before the board, he'll let you know. But otherwise, if you have a question, I don't see the board cutting off a relevant question. So if that's something you want to do. Just so the board understands, it seems like everybody understands, they may not understand like what I was just talking about with the municipal land use box, so maybe I explain it very briefly. The board itself is also under time constraint. This is a site plan application without variances, with 10 units or more under the municipal land use law. We have 95 days to make a decision. That actually expired in April, so we're about behind. To protect the board, we've asked the applicant for an extension. So the applicant has agreed to an extension in writing, so we're protected, so that the board, and in cases where it's not extended, the decision is subject to automatic approval. So, we don't want the applicant just getting automatic approval because we don't have the time. So we've asked the applicant to do that. We want to, focus tonight on giving everybody an opportunity to hurry. We have a lot of input they can get around. We're gonna ask everybody to try to keep their statements focused. Generally, under the police law and municipalities that surround us, the limit is 3 minutes. We're gonna ask you to try to achieve that. The idea is so that everybody has an opportunity to have a meaningful way to participate this evening. So we're going to ask you to be respectful. I'll get questions in a second. I've been doing this for almost 20 years here in the borough, in Hopewell Borough. And I will tell you that public comment is that by this people. They like participation, they like to hear it, and it could often lead to a much better application. So, on the other hand, shouting out, disrupting is not part of the record. So people that are not provided under oath, those statements are not part, it just adds to the way. So we really just looking to be respectful to everybody who wants the opportunity to be heard. So we ask that you do so. I think that's it. I don't know, I know somebody had a hand raised, Mr. Chair. The chairman has the opportunity to kind of control the meeting. If it goes off the rail, he'll bring it back. Honestly, we want to hear what you have to say, what we want to hear from everybody, and we don't want to, the board doesn't want to get stuck in repetition that is this same statements over and over again. And which is something that the chair has the ability to address.
Thank
So I'm gonna turn it back over to you. I saw one hand raised. I don't know.
Yeah, and you know what I'm gonna do? We're gonna hear, from the applicant first, and we'll do this in order. So, do you have any more testimony? I'll go over that.
Good evening, Charles Lieberling, representing Hopewell 57 Urban Renewal LLC. Just to reorient, this application is for preliminary and final site plan approval with no variances or design waivers. It's a redevelopment project pursuant to the borough's redevelopment plan and a redevelopment agreement with the borough. And it meets the affordable set aside requirement. During the last hearing, there was extensive questioning regarding the applicant's traffic study. We prepared and submitted a supplemental intersection analysis report for the intersections of Lafayette and Elm Street and East Broad and Princeton Avenue. This report was submitted to the board secretary. council, does that need to be admitted as an exhibit?
It was submitted, we can mark it as an exhibit, but it is part of the record because it was submitted as part
Okay,
of the.
okay. We also received today a comment letter from the board's traffic engineer, which concurred with the findings of the analysis report. I'd like to just quickly call our traffic engineer to place on the record the conclusions that were reached in the report.
You were previously sworn in and you remain under oath.
Yes, I do. Good evening all. So like the attorney said, we analyzed the two intersections of Lafayette Street and Street, unsignalized, and also East Broad, Princeton, to count. Same process we did with the other one, to count and analyze them using simple HCM level of service for Elm Street and Lafayette is level of service A. The highest increase in delay, we build this site 0.2 seconds. The VC ratio, which is the measure of the volume and capacity, no change. East Broad and Princeton Ave, less than 0.5 seconds increase in delay. So the level of service you mentioned, Princeton Avenue and East Broad, the signalized intersection.
Could you make sure the microphone's on? I can't hear you.
I think it's on, but I think
Princeton.
you're taller than I am.
Okay, Princeton.
Try to get as close to you as possible.
Yeah. Can you hear me now? Yeah. Okay. So, I'll just repeat. Lafayette Street and M Street, level of service is A for out the site and with the site. The highest increase in delay is less than 1 second. East Broad and Princeton Ave, the level of service remains the same throughout. We have level of service C, and it remains the same in the day condition. M Street and Lafayette, level of service A remains the same. Level of service A is the best condition you can have. Level of service C is midway, which is the best, usually accepted, is the most accepted level of service. So there's no change in level of service. The delays are very minimal, and it conforms with the same conclusions we had for the previous studies. So,
Thank you. Similarly, we submitted a supplemental stormwater management documents to the board secretary. Those included plans and documents related to the revisions to the stormwater management measures that were proposed to comply with the applicable stormwater management standards. These documents were also part of the April submission to the DEP in support of the project for stormwater management. Similarly, it's part of the record for having submitted it. And we also received a report from the board engineer reviewing this document. And it consulted with our engineer, and we can either comply with comments, or we will work with the board engineer to satisfy her as to the resolution of the issues raised. I don't have any more, new information to introduce. So I will turn it back to you. Thank you.
All right. So who do we ask?
You can open it up to the public?
They have,
Oh, I think there was somebody that had a question in the back, if you want to go to that person.
Sure.
Or you could.
Sure.
Go to the profession.
I just want to know why you limited 3 minutes.
That's pretty much the standard based on.
Is that in the rules of conversation, that it is 3 minutes when you're done, this has not been practiced, like?
It's the standard that's usually enacted in the state and it's recognized by the court.
And it's the one I decided we're using
And the
tonight
chair
as
has the
chairman.
obligation.
Oh,
to control.
very good.
So,
So-
the municipalities around here, or whether it's Hopewell Borough, West Windsor, Princeton, Montgomery, they all have to do this. So it's not something new or.
So, I don't know, you had a traffic person, are you gonna work with them? Okay,
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. That was just a general question, but let's have it name for the record.
Fletcher Robert.
Sorry about that. Okay, so we're gonna
Yep.
go to. I think it's for. No. Okay. Hey, well then you. Yeah. Let me. Wait, too. You gotta keep everybody the same height. Tall people can't follow short.
yeah.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Keith Hovey. I'm with, Hopewell Community Alliance, nonprofit organization. I'm introducing one of the first of 2 experts. This expert is, Lee Klein, professional engineer. He's with, Klein Traffic Consulting LLC. He will identify his prior testimony and credentials, in addition to being a licensed professional engineer. He's going to talk about, the parking as currently proposed on the site plan application.
Do you swear affirm to tell the truth?
I do.
And, could you just go over your professional?
My name is Lee, middle initial D as in Daniel, Klein, Klein. I'm a professional engineer in the state of New Jersey. I'm licensed current with good standing. I'm also a nationally certified professional traffic operations engineer. That certification is also current and good standing. I have over 40 years of experience in traffic engineering, transportation planning, and parking analysis. I've done work for boards, I've done work for applicants, objector work. I've been accepted as an expert in traffic engineering and transportation planning and parking analysis in well over 150 boards throughout New Jersey.
Do you have any questions?
I don't, I'm familiar with Mr. Klein's work, and don't have any question as to his credentials. If you'd entertain it, I would just like to, since he hasn't been here for any of this, just to ask you a couple questions before he starts. I could see it. Are you aware that this application is fully compliant with the redevelopment plan and requires no variances or waivers?
Yes,
Okay. And you're also familiar with the extensive body of New Jersey law holding that a planning board does not have the authority to deny approval on a compliant site plan?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
He's not a lawyer, so I just wanted.
Hey, no,
He's not. He's not a lawyer.
not a lawyer.
So we accept it?
yes,
I assume-
he's accepted.
You're accepted.
Thank you. So my testimony will focus on the parking situation. And I reviewed the traffic report, the supplemental traffic report, the site plan, and the architectural plan. And I have some comments about parking and the layout of the parking and the situation with the parking on the street. 120 units at 1.5 parking spaces per unit is 180 parking spaces. On their site, lot 7, the 121 space parking lot, they have 121 spaces. And in their main lot where the multifamily building is and where the townhouse is back up to, they have 67 parking spaces there. So they've got 188 parking spaces on their site, and they only require 180 parking spaces. So it's my opinion that the parking on the street on Lafayette, Hamilton, and Somerset should not be part of this application. They have more than enough parking on their site. It's my opinion that if the mayor and council decided to make the parking requirement 1.5 parking spaces per unit, and they are able to do that on site, then everyone must be confident enough that all the parking demand for this use will be contained on the site, and it will not have to spill over onto the streets. It would be my recommendation that 120 of the parking spaces should be assigned to 120 of the units, and then the balance would be available for people that may have two cars, or may have a guest or a visitor. The 15 banked parking spaces on lot 7, they're banking them, which means they're going to get approval for them, but they're not going to build them right away. It would be my recommendation that they should build those 15 parking spaces now. If they were to wait until, let's say, the building is half occupied, then they're gonna have to go back and do some construction there, and they're gonna have to displace people. So to me, it would be prudent and a better recommendation if they would just build those 15 spots. They would have 15 pairs of tandem spaces, and those tandem spaces would be assigned to anybody that comes to rent that has two or more, two parking spaces. You'll hear from other people that are gonna come up later in the audience. They did some research in the automobile ownership in the area. And from what I was told, and you'll get testimony from somebody who did the research, 61% of the people in this area own 2 or more cars. So it's leading me to believe that the 1.5 might be a little on the low side, but that's a number we have to deal with. And like I said before, since they've got 188 on site, then they should be able to utilize the 188 spaces on site and not have to spill over onto the street and not have to have an impact to the neighbors on Lafayette, Hamilton, or even Somerset. I guess I can make a comment about the 1.5, not that anything can be done about it, but the reason why I'm concerned with the 1.5 is that a low number like that would be something that would be, and I've done work in urban areas, suburban areas, and a little more rural areas. And in my experience in places like Jersey City and Newark and Hoboken, where you have mass transit, rail stations, you have bus service, you can go with a lower number because a lot of the people there that live in those locations might end up owning only one car. In an area like this, we don't have mass transit, we don't have buses, we don't have the convenience of being able to walk to other things so that you don't have to rely on 2 people in an apartment having 2 cars. There's also the restriction on the block of Hamilton between Lafayette, I guess it's south of Lafayette, the Princess, right? That is restricted, no parking 7 AM to 5 PM. And also all the streets in the borough, from what I'm told, no parking when it's snow covered. So that, again, is another reason why you wouldn't want to rely on the street parking. If there is a snowstorm, then those 21 parking spaces have to be, are not accounted for. Also, I read in the redevelopment plan that up to 10% of the parking can be utilized on the street. I don't agree with that, but that would be 18, not 21. They're providing 209 spaces with the street, but they only require 180, so that'll be 10% would be 18, so they have to take 3 off somewhere. So really, just in conclusion, if the developer, the applicant, and the mayor and council are confident that 120 units only require 180 parking spaces, and they've got 188 parking spaces, 121 on lot 7, if they build the bank, and 67 on the lot behind the townhouses, that should be adequate for their needs. They shouldn't have to spill out to the street. Also, I want to make a comment about the townhomes. The townhomes that face Lafayette and face Hamilton. They have front doors that way, so that really makes people want to try to park on Lafayette and on Hamilton. If they have groceries, if they have packages, if they have a visitor, they're gonna want to park in the front door. So I would recommend that the architect should make some adjustments to that so that people can park behind the townhomes. And it makes it convenient for them to park in that lot and walk into their respective townhome, or it's some sort of a connection that gets them into their individual units. And also there was a white paper developed by Rutgers for parking regulation. I think that's what this 1.5 was used to come up with. That included that it was 1.4 was the average, but we don't know if that included Jersey City, Hoboken, Newark, where they have mass transit options, or if it's areas that are rural in nature and that they don't have that type of stuff. So there is definitely gonna be a range. But in this situation, I think they chose the average, and to me, this would be an above average area, there'd be more demand for parking because you rely on cars rather than rely on walking to amenities or walking to a bus or something. That's all I correct that.
Thank you. Chair, if the board has any questions or the folks have any questions, you can ask it. If not, you can see if the applicant has anything to cross-examine, and if not, we can.
You guys have, we have nothing up here.
No questions, thank you.
Thank you for your testimony.
Hi, Pete, how are you? Going to introduce the second expert, Susan Bristol. She is with SPP Architecture LLC. She's going to talk about site plan, stormwater, flooding issues. So Susan can come up. And I'll let her discuss her credentials and her prior testimony history.
Thank you. Good evening.
Hi, can you hear me? Yeah, can you swear for tell the truth? And can you give us a background of your education and the area that you're gonna be focusing?
Yes, so
Any licensing or relevant?
my two professional degrees are from the University of Virginia School of Architecture. I maintain architecture licenses and New Jersey planning licenses, and I'm nationally certified as an AICP planner. I taught architecture and resilient design and redevelopment design at New Jersey Institute of Technology in Newark for over the course of 15 years. And I spent several years at the Watershed Institute as their municipal policy specialist, leading watershed planning projects and regional cooperation on behalf of communities.
In terms of, oh, first of all, and the license, are they current?
They're current,
Both the planners and the.
yes.
Do you have any questions regarding qualifications rather than cross?
We're testimony as an architect and a planner, no engineering testimony.
I am not an engineer. I've worked for them, but I am not one.
Okay, that was my only question.
Mhm.
Okay.
We'll accept her as a witness in the areas that she's trained in. Right?
Yeah, thank you very much, and thank you for your volunteer service to your community. I really appreciate the opportunity. So I don't need to remind you all that Hopewell is a very special place and that is worthy of an excellent redevelopment project that remediates the negative impacts of past development on this site. The borough is urbanized in terms of land use and fully built up. So this is an unusual and wonderful opportunity for the developers to find property in such a fabulous community. This project should be the product of minimal regulations, but worthy of the quality and expectations of the community. And of course, I think we all agree that the community needs to be enhanced by this project and not degraded by it in any way. So the site plan review is obviously within your domain as a planning board. The Borough Council did enter into the redevelopment agreement and at that time made it clear that the success of this project would depend upon your review of the detailed plans. The redevelopment plan also makes it clear what your site plan review includes and what additional information you may request on page 15 of that document. So this site plan review includes technical information, but also demands that you review it through the lens of your local knowledge, experience, your policies, and master plan goals, so that the project reflects your potential to implement that vision that you created with your master plan document. The site plan can be critiqued in several ways, but must result in a cohesive project. And its impact on the future at the local and regional scale should be understood. And just as the project will be removing environmental pollutants from the past with remediation, it also needs to manage its own stormwater to remediate past negative impacts on local flooding, especially now, as we all know, climate projections increase those threats. So I would like to point out some critical information that doesn't seem to be available yet to you or the public, at least concerning publicly accessible documents. The project needs some documented revisions before approval, and those need to realize what has verbally been described and promised. This site, through proximity, the stream and the stormwater runoff and the infrastructure is directly connected to your Broad Street corridor, for which you plan to develop a clear vision in your master plan implementation. That vision will have to address the borough's well-known flooding problems, its old infrastructure, and its buried streams. That process begins with this site and this site plan review. As per the redevelopment plan and municipal land use law, you are reviewing and approving a project so that the compliance, you're reviewing this project and the site plan application so that compliance with the redevelopment plan can be determined. So I'd like to just make 3 points about that. Based on the documents available, the proposed project does not yet appear to comply with the redevelopment plan. Maybe with a list of plans required, but there is missing content in those documents. There are no stormwater nor flood control structures in the plans. There's a reference to one, but it's unclear what role that will play or is definitively in the project. An approval of a site plan application is not possible without such items, especially because the site is known to be in a flood hazard zone. And third, according to the redevelopment plan, we believe the following items need to be provided in order to properly review the site plan application. And that document says that the redevelopment plan allows for discussion of impacts of development that are unique to this property, including the following: the environmental permits, the environmental controls and monitoring systems, and information concerning the long-term maintenance of those controls. So in other words, I'm encouraging you to have before you all of this information. And don't think that your well-educated and savvy community can't comprehend an engineering document or an environmental technical document, because I think you and the public have that capacity. Regarding the bulk zoning table, if the impervious coverage is allowed at 75% and the existing is 65.88%, and the proposed is slightly less at 51%, then one would think that there would be surface area available for restoration, green infrastructure on the surface of the land, and reforestation, some kind of reforestation along the stream buffer. And so those things have not been addressed yet. Missing or needed documents might include a series of site sections. Site sections are incredibly valuable, not only for the designers while they're creating the project and engineering a project, but for a community who see the relationship of buildings to, in context, to the landscape, to the stream, to the street. And so I recommend that the applicant provide several site cross sections through the property. There also does not appear to be a report from a New Jersey LSRP, which is a licensed site remediation professional. So that would be obviously something you want to acquire, considering the site conditions. There doesn't appear to be a detailed plan of stormwater runoff management measures. There is no base design flood elevation on the documents, despite it being fully in a flood hazard zone. There doesn't seem to be an independent environmental impact report or a resilience and flooding impact report or mitigation plan. The stream corridor seems to be ignored entirely, and it's unclear where the buffer for that is and how that stream corridor will be handled in this project. It is my understanding that that green space, including the stream, was used in the calculations, the bulk calculations. So it's a part of the property and should be also considered in the final project and improved, considering the damage and compromise that has occurred there. There wasn't posted your own engineer stormwater tech report. There was a reference to it, but it wasn't visible. And finally, the reference stormwater collection and conveyance system that was suggested in the project and maybe within a basement of the building didn't include any product or spec or information regarding its nature, its how it performs, where it's receiving stormwater from, and where it's outfall for where it will send the stormwater. So omissions of content include flood hazard area, BFE, as I already mentioned. It's hard to believe that residential living area units are not permitted in the flood zone. So it's hard to believe that those can be built on grade as represented without knowing the actual design flood elevation that the architecture needs to be built to. One suggestion is that the community building, which is a different use, might be flood proofable, might be able to be within the building footprint, the apartment building footprints, and not take up a large part of the site in what could be a really beautiful courtyard. If one of the building basements houses a stormwater retention area, it could probably be independent of other basement uses. Okay, so that's about the flood hazard. The stream corridor designation, buffer requirements, and dimensions seem to be absent from the site plan. They aren't identified on the plans, and yet the stream is significant not only within the borough but in Hopewell Township stream maps. You can see at the borders of your borough the importance of these streams as they enter and leave your borough. Also, green infrastructure and surface stormwater management, or BMP elements, they are in the redevelopment overlay zone ordinance 891. Wherever practical, stormwater management facilities shall be designed for ease of maintenance and utilize green infrastructure measures that serve as an aesthetic landscape amenity to the development. The complete redevelopment of a site like this is a perfect opportunity for stormwater management. and green infrastructure that is not only practical but essential for the health, human safety, and economy of the borough. There don't seem to be on the plans environmental testing locations, or if there is future soil remediation, there aren't any indications where this might occur. I also didn't see any soils testing or soil boring locations, which is usually a key part of any project like this. I didn't see a tree inventory and tree replacement plan. There appear to be some trees on the plans and some tree removals on the plans, but Hopewell Borough has a tree ordinance and specific guidelines for tree replacement. And that wasn't visible as an inventory or as a specific part of the plan. The wooded area, which comes up almost against the buildings and buffers the stream, probably for flood mitigation should probably be heavily planted and restored, just as the fact that there are no plans for stream restoration. The property includes the stream, but there's debris. There's scouring, poor quality stream banks, which contributes to flooding and pollution downstream. There's debris and questionable drain pipes visible coming into the stream from an unknown origin. So the disturbed land between the buildings and the protected stream corridor should be considered for planted bioswale and flood mitigation landscape strategies. On the also omitted or overlooked is the open space delineation. The zoning chart requires 15%. It's proposed at 21%, but there is no open space noted on the plans. Where is it? Is it wooded, planted? Is it lawn? Lawn, as you may know, is green, but it performs as impervious cover in terms of stormwater management and flooding. The rainwater runs very quickly off of it, and typical lawns don't absorb much. So, is there a public? What is meant by this open space that's required? Is there a public easement? Does the public have access to it? Is it related to the stream and wooded corridor? We don't know. It should be designated on the plans. So regarding the site plan drawings, the project is 120 units total, 42 townhouses and 78 apartments. The applicant promised a reduced footprint if the plan was amended to include 4-story buildings. It's currently unclear what benefit resulted from the taller buildings. There should be a visible benefit on the site plan and should probably be green. It should probably be green infrastructure. The redevelopment plan calls for cleanup of the site, but it doesn't really designate that stream corridor dimensionally or in terms of its required buffer. The 4-story buildings also do not need to be one L-shaped flat roof building. I believe buildings in the plural was a possibility in the redevelopment plan. So I think that's something that needs to be contemplated here and considered with cooperation, because that would enhance not only the design of the project for the new residents, but for the community, for light, for air, for management of stormwater also. So it was interesting to me and surprising that the redevelopment plan did not include a footprint or a concept plan. So this 4-story L-shaped building wasn't really even contemplated by you, the planning board. Therefore, an alternative footprint would be appropriate. The apartment block should be two buildings to fulfill the goals of the plan and to better fit with Hopewell's context. The resulting configuration would be something like a pinwheel diagram. In the plan, other provisions and requirements, that apartment, the apartment building or buildings, were at the rear of the property to visually reduce the scale of the buildings, so breaking them apart would do an even better job at that, and maybe even putting a pitched roof on them would help, because they are not, invisible buildings, they very much will be visible from multiple vantage points around the neighborhood. So the benefits of that alternative, would include a social benefit. So if you think about the 78 unit tower broken into two buildings, each 4-story apartment building would have approximately 39 units. It not only reduces visually the scale of the building, but it would be roughly equivalent to the occupancy and density of a typical borough block. So if you look at Google Earth and you count the houses around one block in the borough, a typical block, the community of residents in one of those smaller apartment buildings would more closely resemble the community of residents in one neighborhood block. I think that's a big plus here because the social scale is as important as the architectural scale. Just to run through some quick design recommendations, I've already suggested that the courtyard should include green infrastructure and grass and lawn areas reduced to actually be landscaped and more perform in some way to improve the decrease and actually manage all the runoff of the site. There are no townhome entries at the courtyard. I think our previous expert mentioned that. It makes no sense to, when you have stacked units, to have all the entries on one side. So there should be courtyard entries, maybe for the upper level ones that need closer access to their vehicle. And there should be street entries to maintain the community streetscape of porches and entries. The proposed slab on grade elevations of many units, I find hard to believe will be acceptable in the flood zone. And so there's a need to explore more what happens with the relationship of units to the ground. The community building is not only alien to the site and the context, but could probably be tucked under an apartment building, maybe semi-submerged. But those activities can be flood-proof. Residential apartments and units cannot. The courtyard, parking, and all the new paving there should include pervious pavement. It's very commonly used now and actually counts as a stormwater management strategy. The green infrastructure, rain gardens, bioswales, any type of green infrastructure should be placed as close as possible to the source. So instead of just gathering all the rain off the roof or the parking and dumping it directly into a pipe, it should be held, it should be delayed, and it should be managed as close as possible to its source. That is invisible yet on the site plan. The apartment buildings could have pitched roofs and solar arrays. I mentioned the pitched roof for aesthetic reasons, but the solar array it's a fabulous opportunity for that. And the residential units should include usable porches, not shallow rooflets that aren't really usable in the way that the community uses its porches. So architecturally, the porches should be occupiable and certainly can be tied to the entries, but that needs to be explored better. And the buildings need to minimize carbon emissions and contain more sustainable features. I'm not sure that you have a sustainable building component of your master plan yet or an ordinance, but it's very common in many towns in the area because building and construction accounts for 37 to 42% of annual global carbon dioxide emissions. according to the United Nations. Also, some simple sustainable building features could include recycling water and diverting some water, used water, for tank flushing or for irrigation purposes. So we recommend that the architectural features, be described more fully to you. The other actions, I already mentioned that your redevelopment plan allows you, to take other actions. And, one of them is design and environmental, work relating to flood hazard mitigation, stream encroachment, wetlands, and other state regulated activities. I know it's easy for you to be told that, oh, that's all for the DEP and it's not in your purview, but those things affect design and affect what's built and affect how comprehensive the site plan application is or is not. So those things should be understood. Remedial activity of contaminated soils and other environmental remediation should also be understood by you and by the community. So all of these comments, my critique, the alternatives that we're presenting, they're all compatible from a policy perspective with policies at multiple scales, with the borough, the county master plan, the state plan, and even the initiatives of your own borough. You also know that your borough's involved in a regional watershed management plan as a part of the MS4 DEP permit that all towns are required to respond to, which is about water quality and reducing flooding. So you're one of the municipalities that's cooperating with the whole Beedens Brook watershed, which is a sub-watershed of the Lower Millstone. I led the initiative to gather all the towns in Montgomery Township to kick that off. And by signing on and by being involved with that regional watershed management plan, your borough has said that we understand we are contributing to a watershed scale problem, and we want to take responsibility for improving water quality and quantity as best we can. And so it's very important that you evaluate this project knowing that the policies of your borough not only encourage you to think of these things, but demand it of you. Also, back in 2020, the Watershed Institute did impervious cover assessments for many municipalities in our watershed area. They are available publicly online. They also contain action plans for reducing runoff. And this particular site, I don't know if you've seen it yet, but this particular site is included in the action plan of that document that goes back to 2020. So I would encourage you all to look at that. When you have a copy of my report, you'll see that I've loaded it with some images and mapping so that my words are illustrated and easier to follow. It's also pretty obvious that Hopewell has really old infrastructure. The infrastructure is not managing your stormwater with existing conditions, and the conditions are getting worse. It's really inconceivable to me and to the community, I think, for a new project to just dump stormwater directly into that old infrastructure and claim that it doesn't negatively impact the rest of the community. As you know, you have a buried stream through the middle of town between this site and the Castoro redevelopment site. So by not managing any of this properly on this project site now, this once in a century opportunity to reimagine the site, according to all the plans and principles that you've developed, you're potentially pushing the burden on the next redeveloper, on the next site, and interfering with your ability to realize the broad street that you want to envision in your master plan. These things are all connected. And in the same way that traffic needs to be managed sometimes off-site with investments, stormwater is very similar. And as far as I know, there's no contribution to, you're not rebuilding the borough infrastructure. So the site has to be used as a place to take care of that. So the Broad Street vision, is important, and you don't want to compromise businesses from going there and being subject to this kind of threat in the future. And the flood maps that are quite visible on public websites, including New Jersey flood, the flood indicator mapping. You can see the whole site is in the middle of a flood zone. So there's no secret there. You also can see on Hopewell's stream corridor mapping, you can see your borough and what comes in and goes out of your town and how the site relates to that. Most streams have a minimal buffer of 50 feet. Hopewell has 100-foot buffers, and C1 streams, the highest quality streams, have a 300-foot buffer in Hopewell Township. There are development restrictions that might kick in here if you could see what the stream corridor buffer actually are dimensionally on the plans. And whether or not, if a conservation easement is needed, maybe that would be a helpful way to manage this down the road after the buildings are built. I'm not gonna go into the weeds, but as you know, the inland flood, the MS4 permit, the inland flood protection rule, and the real rules, which were supposed to kick in July, are all concerned with improving water quality and water quantity. All New Jersey river and streams are now compromised, meaning lower quality than they used to be. The flooding is expanding, increasing with more frequency because of climate changes. But the most important thing to know about the regulations is not the technical ins and outs, requirements and loopholes, but the fact that the reason we've had to have all these new regulations in the last several years is that we have been working with old data. 100-year floodplain maps are 100-year-old data. Like when this factory on this site was built, what, 1909 was it, the original? Early in the last century. So all of our engineering and technical work up until recently has been done with out-of-date old information. The new rules we should know and we should embrace are based on actual current data and projections based on science. So if this project is going to be here for 50 to 80 years, you can't ignore those rules. Whether or not this project will be subject to the real rule, you know why we have the real rule. And it's important to recognize those facts. So I encourage you to look at all of the images in this. The last section of my report includes resources and maps. And one of the things that I also just want to call out is that the redevelopment plan does require this project to identify its relationship to master plans of adjacent municipalities. It says that since the site is over 1,000 feet from the closest municipal boundary, no significant impacts are anticipated from the redevelopment of the site due to its distance. Well, that just isn't true. It's not true when it comes to flooding. It's not true when it comes to watersheds. And it's not true because your borough is engaged in a regional watershed management project right now. And one of my neighbors in Rocky Hill is still unhoused because of the flooding of the Beedens Brook destroying her home. So we're all living with these realities. This is your opportunity to consider them from a site plan review perspective. So I just want to conclude that the impact of this development will be a significant transformation. It is a welcome thing always to redevelop old abandoned industrial sites, but it cannot threaten the well-being of the surrounding community, nor its own residents will be occupying the project. It can't burden the borough, its businesses, or future downstream developers on other redevelopment sites. If this project is not contributing to off-site solutions that address the flooding problem that you have, at a minimum, it needs to manage its own property to eliminate stormwater runoff, to restore the environmental damage on the site, and to mitigate flooding on the site. The planning board and the public deserve the critical information and documentation that converts the developer's words to actions and a project that is an asset for the future. This report, in my opinion, calls for revisions to the Hopewell 57 project to achieve the goals of your master plan, the redevelopment plan, and to respond to actual contextual conditions, which you all are expert in. Thank you for your consideration of our review of the project site plan application in the context of your built and natural environment. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Do you have the application? Oh, Chair.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
You all will receive a copy of this for your review. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sure, we'll see you now. I don't have any hard copies. Email.
I have a hard copy.
Oh, we have a hard copy.
Is there an opportunity for the public to ask questions of the expert?
Um,
I mean, that's, the public has an opportunity to ask.
is it,
It's Montfrey.
It's our expert, yeah, we're the Hopewell
HCA.
Community Alliance.
but you can't really cross examine here.
No, we're not saying. that
No,
this is the
not-
opportunity to ask
Public will have their comments and if they.
They can ask the way.
Sure,
Yeah. Okay. Next person up is David Shimko. Yes, please. That's her report.
Yeah, I only have one copy. So just for the record, I want to mark this, using Bristol put together a report, and I'm going to identify this as, I think we have only O1 at this point, right? O1. So this will be marked as O1 into evidence. Only have one copy, but we'll have to give the applicant a copy as well. Okay, that's all I need for the record. Please raise your right hand. I think you were sworn in, or we'll do it again. Do you swear or tell, tell the truth?
I do. Just a couple things.
So I'm sorry to interrupt, just because I'm gonna be waiving this thing if people, because it's hard for the secretary to do things, the chair asked me, so this will be for like, you're almost finished, and this will be for that. I didn't have
I won't be looking at it.
And just for the record, state your name again, David, and.
David Jimko, SWYMKO. You.
There you go.
Or bend over.
So that's many times. Yeah. There we go. Cool. Just a couple things. Two things that were mentioned about, actually last meeting. It was said you guys definitely don't need the parking in the street. Hello?
Yeah.
There we go. Last meeting, you guys mentioned that you definitely did not need the parking in the street. And it was stated that you had more than enough. Is there any reason why we couldn't put no parking signs there? Again, it was stated they cover all the parking. They said themselves they don't need the parking in the street. Is it something to make?
Yeah, council has to do that. We can't.
We can recommend.
You could recommend it to council, and it could also be added to this, if it goes to approve.
It can't be added to the approval, it has to, council has to do that independently, but we can, yeah, we can.
Would you recommend?
It is within our power to recommend that, yes.
Because it was clearly stated you don't need it today, it was stated they have enough of them. So if we can make that absolute and put signs up there and bring it to their attention.
That means neighbors won't be able to park there either.
What's that?
That means none of the neighbors will be able to park there.
Yep.
Okay.
The other thing was, it was brought up that there's gonna be no rooftop deck and area. We get rid of the elevator on top. There's no reason to have it up there. Why is there an elevator?
I believe
tower?
that's the machinery for the elevator. It doesn't go up to the roof, or does it? Or else,
Yes, it does.
it's for the equipment, yeah.
You can't. That elevator goes to the roof, correct?
Yeah, but the air conditioning units and stuff like that to service that, somebody has to be able to get up there.
How many elevators do you have in there? One or two? One?
Two.
Are they designated for service or designated for handicap, or is it?
No.
Because you're not allowed to use. I called the state, checked with the state, as far as the ADA, you cannot use an elevator for service and take that out of, if that complies with your ADA. You can't do it. So to use that for service, you just can't. So can we get rid of that tower? It's not needed. You don't need the elevator going to the top unless you have a separate
You know what?
service elevator.
Take that under
We'll
advisement.
comply with code. I'm not sure what else to say. We didn't call the state to ask. so.
Yeah, well, it's compliant with code unless it comes up as a question. When you hand that in for your permitting, they're not gonna. You go and have something separate, it doesn't fall under code. They're gonna ask you if you're gonna shut it down for service. If you put it down on your plans, then that it is part of servicing and not just to meet all the ADA requirements. It needs to be noted that you're gonna use it for service also.
Okay.
And is that something I'm not forgetting about that. As far as the flooding. It isn't a flood zone. There's no base elevation set at all. FEMA has not set a base elevation flood height. That area. Right now, they added 3 feet at the beginning of the year. They're gonna add another 3 feet in July. With that, we're talking about a building that we're showing from grade.
Right. Susan report.
This is outside of the report. I'm trying to explain to you guys that when they hand in permitting and they ask for the base flood elevation, it could be 8 feet. So now the building starts from here, not from where they're shown. There could be a retaining wall around that property. To meet the base flood elevation, then that's where the building starts, whatever FEMA says. They haven't looked at it yet. And you guys are looking at a building that the picture is great, that it shows from grade and it's gonna be 4 stories, but we don't know what grade is yet because we don't have a base flood elevation set for that site. And that's part of the permitting process. But you guys are faced to approve something that you don't know how high it is. Or if you're gonna have a retaining wall like they have down by ShopRite Montgomery with the new development, could happen. and then they start building. That's something I think that we should all consider. And because we're
David.
dealing.
Really, I mean, I got it.
Okay.
Yeah, I know, but
It's
I got like 50 people want to speak, right?
Yeah, and I've been waiting 2 months to speak.
Yeah.
So, and it's, as far as you guys are dealing with experts that have no bearing on it, it's their opinion. If anybody of these experts are wrong, traffic study, the school, well, who holds it? Us. It's an opinion on it, because if all the traffic studies work, we wouldn't have traffic. S 287, Route 1, northbound from southbound to Rocky Hill. Their traffic study work, what do they have? The town's stuck with it. We'll be stuck with it. So it's something, and actually you brought up a case study in South Brunswick where they took it to court. Last
I
meeting.
don't remember, I bring up a lot of things.
I remember because I happen to work there for 25 years and I watched all the traffic studies go, and you know what they're doing there? Driving on the shoulder. They have lights on the shoulders on Route 1 to get through South Brunswick because all the traffic studies work well. Take that into consideration, please, before you think, there's a lot of unknown you guys don't have. And that's just something I wanted to bring up. That's it. Thank you.
Richard Feynman. I even got that much out of this.
I have some questions for the traffic engineer. Oh, okay, sure. I have some questions for the traffic engineer, based on his testimony, which was actually 2 meetings ago.
Take your name for the record, please,
Sure, Richard Friedman.
and I believe you were.
I was sworn in at least once.
And so you're still under oath? So, okay.
The first question I have for you is, you had said that you were basing it in part, I think, at least, on the Kultronic property, trips in and out of the Kultronic's property when it was used. Can you tell me the date or the time frame you were talking about when you were comparing what happened to what did happen in Kultronics?
I'm not sure. I said what, I don't understand what you're saying.
You said that a good comparator of what would happen is what happened when Kultronics would have traffic going in and out of Kultronics. You remember saying that?
So the previous site,
Yes.
right, you use the ITE, chief generation manual and develop what the site would have generated at the time. And that's what we have, and compare it with what this site will generate.
Okay.
It has nothing to do with when or not.
Well, my question is, what time period were you considering?
It's not a time period.
It's not a
It's a
time
use.
period,
It's
it's
a
a use.
It's a use.
So
Fine,
not
you
gonna re-
considered the use of Kultronics versus what would happen now, is that correct?
That's correct.
And well, I'm simply asking you, the use of Kultronics and when? What time period?
You're not answering any.
Just watch, you don't.
Just because he doesn't like the question, or you don't like it, doesn't mean he shouldn't be out.
So let me just.
Pretty simple question.
The answer, what he's saying is that he can't go back and have it do counts. So what he does is rely on IT standards based on use. So he identifies the use of the property, the square footage, and he gave calculations based on that.
Is that correct?
That's correct, that's what I've been saying.
Even though the property's not in use?
Yes,
Okay. You also said that there would be, let me see. For the 120 units, there would be, I think, 60 trips in the morning, is that correct? Or do I have
That's-
the numbers wrong?
whatever is in the report is what I stand
Well,
by.
you testified, I'm asking you about your testimony.
Yeah, yeah,
It's not
What I-
repeating his testimony.
whatever I
About
testified,
his testimony.
You can ask him questions, you cannot ask him to repeat his testimony.
I'm not. He said that he said that there were 60 trips for 120
Okay,
units.
you are asking him to repeat his testimony.
No, I'm not. I can ask a question about what he testified.
He testified to it.
So that's what I'm asking about.
He's not gonna say, yes, I testified to that.
question?
Yes,
That's
my
the
question
question.
is, are you saying that there'll be one automobile trip for every 2 units in the mornings? Is
I
that what
didn't-
you testified to?
No,
How many did you testify to then?
I testified to the peak hour trips.
Yes, and
I,
how, what
I,
was it?
I
He's
didn't start,
testified to that.
I can ask him about what he testified.
And he does not have to answer, I'm gonna instruct him not to.
Do you have a license
You're
or
not
you an
here to re-testify.
I can ask him about his testimony. That's what.
You can ask him a question about his testimony, not to repeat his testimony.
All right, you
do not have
testified
to
that you
answer.
testified 60 trips for 120 units.
in the
Do
peak
you
hour,
remember that?
In the-
Yes, in the peak hour.
yes.
So you're saying in the peak hour, there'd be 1 trip for every 2 units?
I didn't say it would be one to pick every two units. I never talked anything about.
Okay,
that.
okay.
Just 60
It's-
for
You didn't
120.
The whole site will generate that peak hour.
60 for 120 units.
Forget about, I don't care what you're saying.
You're
The sign-
calculating it your way. He didn't
I didn't
calculate that,
say
but that's what he's
that.
saying.
You're trying to tell me what I didn't say.
I can do the math. It's not that.
It's not
hard.
your
It really
problem.
isn't. All right, so I have another question. Did you take into account the school students? I think you said 20 students into those trips?
They don't try.
It's not required for me to calculate that.
It's a yes or no. You have to do a calculation in your number.
If you're not, the trip generation does not require me to calculate the number of schools or
Thank you.
students that will be
Okay.
there. I don't even
It's a
know.
yes or no. Did you consider
Victor,
students
no.
in the trip?
No.
It's not that complicated.
No,
Okay, the next question I have for you is that you said that trips would be, I think you said, and if I'm misquoting you, you'll let me know. Did you say that, in considering the trips, you considered flex time and you considered people working remotely? Is that correct?
no,
You did not consider those things.
no.
All right, the transcript of the meeting will speak for itself. You also testified that, what was the manual that you relied on, the traffic manual? Or in coming up with your conclusions, you said the fifth edition of.
IPE.
For the trip generation.
Yes, in what specific sections did you rely on?
What section?
You're not
Yeah,
answering.
what section?
Not
There's no section.
What do you mean not answering? That's what
Not
they
answering.
do. They rely on something and then they give an opinion.
He relied on the book.
ITE.
Yes, and what in the book did you rely on? What in the 12th edition did you rely on?
Victor, you don't have to answer that.
That's up to the board. That's not up to.
No, it's not up to the board. It's up to me whether or not he answers the question.
So you can't, you're not gonna answer
No, he's not.
it. Okay, don't answer it. Did you consider the availability or lack of availability of mass transportation in your opinion?
Yes.
And what did it lead to?
Again, if you look at the ITE, it tells you not to close the transit or close the transit. Those are the different criteria you use in analyzing how much traffic you generate. It's already been considered in the analysis.
Okay, and which criteria did it apply here? What's the
Not close the transit.
Okay, I don't have any more questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lori Saporito. Sorry? Oh. All right, okay. Megan. Beaufort. Close. Not close.
Okay, I have a bunch of questions. but I
Yeah,
will-
before you go on, just say your name for the
Sure.
record.
Megan Moffett.
I can't remember if you were sworn in, if you
No,
were
for
telling the truth.
Telling the truth. And please say your last name. I'm OPC here.
Thank you.
Since I'm being asked to bring that to our try to choose my questions, is the most important. So I'll start with pedestrian safety. So I have 3 young boys that ride their bikes, walk around Lafayette. My mom's retired. She's trying to stay active in her retirement. She goes for walks every day on Lafayette. I'm curious with the traffic report, what impact or what studies were done for pedestrian safety in particular?
Did you look at crash history or anything else, to do with pedestrians?
We didn't look at crash history.
Is that common in traffic reports to include pedestrian safety?
Traffic impact, no. It's not common.
Okay. Is it typical? You don't look at pedestrian safety as a traffic expert?
As a site plan circulation, yes. But pedestrian analysis itself is a different ballgame altogether.
Who determines the scope of your report? Is that the redeveloper or is that up to you?
For a traffic impact study, there's a general scope that is used. It does not include pedestrian analysis, which is what you are asking. Generally, not anywhere you go, that's the general scope that is used. Now, if there is a particular pedestrian concern, crash history, hotspots that you have, the state has crash hotspots that are known, then in that case, you can analyze those.
So I know at one of the intersections, there have been crashes that you studied. So I'm curious if there is a commitment on the developer's account to look at reasonable safety issues as part of the redevelopment plan. Should pedestrian safety be part of that? It's also part of your agreement that walkability is something that is a stated goal. But there doesn't seem to be any analysis around the pedestrian safety. There's no sidewalks. You're going to be increasing traffic. I drove down those roads today. I saw 11 pedestrians. And there seems to be no account for any of those safety concerns.
We have agreed to do additional sidewalk, and we've agreed to the Lafayette.
But does that ensure that there's going to be any sort of safety assurance?
Can I finish what I was saying?
Yeah.
Because there are no crosswalks there today. So we have agreed to add additional crosswalks and additional sidewalks that do not exist there today. That should make the intersection of Hamilton and Lafayette far safer than it is today for pedestrians.
But there's also on Railroad, there's no sidewalks there either.
There'll be sidewalks on what we own on our side.
But your traffic will also contribute to the safety outside of your immediate area.
Okay.
So there's no concerns from you that the safety of the pedestrians are going to be impacted by the increased traffic?
I didn't say that.
So then there is concern.
We were addressing the concerns that were raised and that we think are legitimate based upon our impacts.
Could your traffic expert do some more analysis as to what
It's really not called for.
I would say from somebody who lives here, who has 3 young kids and a mom who walks on these streets every day, it is.
They're walking on the streets.
To walk on. Of the 11 pedestrians that I saw today, 50% of them were on the streets.
Did I just tell you that we're putting sidewalks in that don't exist today? So they'll be able to walk on sidewalks that they cannot walk on today. So that's part of the answer.
Okay, well, I hope that's true. The parking spot was another thing that I know we heard a little bit about today.
No, you can go on, or you go.
Do you have anything different that's unique that?
I think that for the parking spots, again, there's a community that was just built in Montgomery, it's called the Somerset at Montgomery. They have 115 units and they built 217 spaces.
Good. That's great.
Well, yeah, I would hope so, that they're providing spaces for the community, and 1.5 spots for the residents there doesn't make sense. And so those cars are gonna have to go somewhere, or maybe they won't lease the apartments from you because you can't provide the parking for them.
Thank you. And Olivia Boyle. Olivia Boyle.
I'm here.
Vanessa Bond.
Hi, I'm to tell the truth. Vanessa Bond, real indie. Like this on. On West Broad Street. Okay, I too am a mother of three, and much of my concerns are about safety and much of the traffic report. We are hearing a great deal about wait time convenience, delay, level of service, et cetera. I reiterate the primary concern for us is safety. I am grateful that you did include the intersection at Princeton and Broad Street, because that's a significant one for us, where there has been a fatality since I've lived here, and I've only lived here for 6 years. So it is of a great concern to us. Again, I'm so grateful that you did that, and yet disappointed that I know it is typical for you to use peak hours of 4 to 6, but this is the heart of our community, and therefore these intersections are heavily impacted by dismissal times, which is not during that window, right? So I alone with my family probably make 4 trips during that one window of time. That was not included in this report. To hear also that the pedestrian consideration is not included is surprising. It is not clear to me, and maybe you can shed light on this. What is the expected number of humans anticipated? Because we hear a lot about the number of units, but not a specific number of, these are the humans that we anticipate to be a part of our community. Now you're not include their wait time.
No.
Okay. Right. Yeah, been here all the things except for the first one, so the 7 years from that time.
I'm sorry, I can't put my finger on it right this second.
But the answer is yes, you did give us the number of anticipated residents.
I did.
I remember you giving that number.
I did.
Well, yeah, anybody remember what that is, because that to me is.
Yeah.
Crucial information.
I will find it and I'll get it before the end of the hearing.
Okay. Because it's, again, you know, certain numbers we know, you've heard about the number of parking spots, et cetera. One consideration is with traffic studies, it seems that it's mostly about people who are passing or traversing the streets, and so it's trips. But is there any, great, let me finish my thought before I keep it. Is there any analysis of impact about sightlines? So at present, there is, along Hamilton is not allowed to have parking, correct? And there's another place within this area of Hamilton and Lafayette where parking is restricted, but otherwise parking is allowed. And so I'm thinking about this, you know, this intersection, this combination of additional humans with additional cars, with additional people parking on the streets, with potentially children in this area, all adding to what could be a calamitous event in terms of people not seeing kiddos passing around in the street, right? So is that considered just the visual of having all parked cars along the way? And where is that considered? In the
All of the sight lines from all of the intersections on the community that we've designed have all been looked at and approved as the sight distance. So they'll be safe. People will be able to see easily everything that they need to see when they get to that intersection.
Okay.
The total number, total estimated population is 256.
256. Okay, and as far as the parking, it's 1.5 per unit, but they are not designated spots per person, and they aren't, that is not, you have a 3-bedroom unit, so you get 2 parking spaces, and you have a 1-bedroom unit, and you get 1 parking space.
We have not made that decision at this point.
I'm not made a decision, okay. This will seem like out of left field, but
we've waited a long time to ask questions. There was a moment 2 or 3 meetings ago where there was discussion of lighting adjustments and someone of our community gave a report to ask for those adjustments to be made, and I don't believe we ever heard back whether those lighting adjustments were going to be made.
I'll make it very short. We made the lighting adjustments.
Ooh, we like to get those.
Okay, we're good.
Thank you.
I think this is Mark Peters, but his handwriting is atrocious, considering his role in the community. Yeah.
Okay. Okay,
Can you state your name for the record?
yeah, Mark Peters, PETERS,
And you swear from tell the truth?
I do. Do I need to say where I live?
You should.
83 West Prospect Street. All right, so, I am here as a private citizen, although I am a sitting school board member, just for the record, but I am talking as a private citizen. All right, so first question I have for you. Has there been any communication with the school district during the process by which you conducted any portion of the traffic study? No, okay. Have you guys talked at all with the school district since you guys made the decision to start development? Has there been any discussion with the school district?
Through the municipality, yes, but not directly.
Okay. Can you confirm if there's any consideration for bus traffic from any of the net new residents with children that might be moving into your residence? So is there any consideration in the traffic study for additional bus routes?
Bus routes?
Bus routes, yes, for the school age children.
I'm not sure I understand.
So there's going to be 20 kids that is
Right.
being estimated that are going to be moving into your development.
Okay.
There may or may not be bus routes that are going to have to be added for those students to be taken into school. Was there any consideration for bus routes for the traffic study at all?
No.
Okay. Are you guys aware of the current number of bus routes that are happening within Hopewell Borough? No, okay. Are you aware of Hopewell Valley Regional School District's programming specific to special education and the reality that we attract families for these services at a larger percentage than most of the state? Okay. Where are the school buses with children that are handicapped or with special needs being picked up at your development? Where will that pickup happen?
I really have no idea, but there are plenty of places that are potentials.
Okay, okay, good. So hypothetically, the best case scenario of the busing situation is that there's gonna be no new routes, right? That's the hypothetical situation, right? Of those 20 kids, meaning all 20 of those kids are gonna come to this school. I think we can all agree on that, right? That's the best case scenario. But I'm gonna paint the picture for you that's a reality, given what we are as a regional school district. Those 20 new students that come in, that move into your development, let's say 10 of them require special services. And those special services are something that our district cannot provide. What's going to happen at that point is that the taxpayers are going to be responsible for having those kids go out of district. The worst case scenario would that mean for us is that there are going to be 10 additional buses picking up 10 students at your development during the times by which we are addressing traffic. That seems like a pretty reasonable thing that we should be considering, given the parking. You don't have a comment, just gonna say it out loud. Are you guys aware of the Rutgers study inaccuracy for the current pilot programs happening in Hopewell Township today? And I'd ask the planning board the same thing. Are we all aware of the inaccuracies of the 2022 census that was done for the pilot programs in Hopewell Township? Okay, so let me just paint the picture for what we're. So the original census in 2022 stated that of all of the pilot programs that were being built, what was going to happen was approximately 250 students over a 10 to 11 year period. In just the first pilot program, we had 278 net new students over 1.5 years. So I bring that up as we think about this number of net new students coming into the school, that we should be considering that holistically and the huge impact that's going to have. Realistically, yeah, I'll get there. Reasonable.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, reasonable. We'll get there. Thank you. So I think that as a group, including you with the planning board, we should be looking at this as a bigger factor, especially when it comes to traffic. Because the presumption that the Rutgers numbers are going to be correct
there's only been 4 other towns in New Jersey where there's been an inaccuracy, and we're one of the 4.
There is a difference because that was primarily for sale housing and this is rental. So there is a difference.
Okay. Okay, I'm not gonna comment on that because I want to keep going. Do you guys know how many times the Rutgers data has been wrong?
No.
Okay. And my last question, which I think is an important one, given the evolving data on impacts like school enrollment from similar developments and the unknowns of the impact of traffic, as well as the unknowns that some of our expert witnesses brought forward today. If the planning board determines a need to substantially revise the master plan to address any of the community needs, what's gonna be your guys' approach to that? And most importantly, would you consider partnering with us to try to fix it, or do you intend to protect the current approvals through a legal action?
I'm not gonna answer.
Okay. Well, you guys want to clarify, you just said what?
I said I'm not answering.
Okay, you're not gonna answer that.
Yep.
Thank you.
Mary and Labos?
And who's on deck?
Huh?
Who's on deck?
Oh, Karen Booth.
I was just saying for the person knows.
Oh, yeah. Oh, got it.
Good evening. My name is Marian Legos. I swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
Okay, spell last.
Okay. So this one I have. Even closer? Oh, okay, wow.
That's good.
I need earplugs to talk this close. This has been brought up a couple times today, but I can't believe for the fact that we don't know what the base flood elevation is for the site. Which means that we don't know exactly how tall those buildings are going to be in relation to the surrounding neighborhood. The habitable first floor must be 2 feet above the current NJDP flood map elevation or 3 feet above the FEMA maps. So you can't actually tell us how tall the building is going to be until we have that base flood elevation established. Because if you live too close to the property, you have to repeat yourself in this process. So I'm going to assume that none of you have necessarily watched the basin, or, sorry, the basin, the property flood during some of our heavy storms. It literally fills up like a bathtub during any flood event. And when it does that, this is called the flood storage volume. And when you displace that volume, it causes substantial problems. I'm gonna read something out of the NJDEP site because it's just much better than all of our site. If a significant volume of floodwater is prevented from occupying a site, the resultant loss of flood storage volume can increase the depth and velocity of flooding, which can lead to deeper floodwaters, a wider extent of flooding, increased hazard of public safety, and loss of property. Deeper and faster flows in a channel also increase the potential for erosion, stream bank failure, and downstream sediment deposition, all of which adversely impact fishery resources and other aquatic biota, as well as people and property. Based on the testimony of Susan Bristol earlier, I think that is a relevant thing to also keep in mind. Is the riparian zone going to be added to the site plan documents?
Would you like us to answer the question about base flood?
Oh, okay,
Yes.
okay,
We know the information.
okay, then is it going to be on the documents?
It is on the document.
Since the
Okay, let's
time
just
you
wait.
It might-
Yeah, let's
And
identify who's speaking and make it clear for the record.
Good evening, Paul, when you're going consulting the applicant's engineer or site plan.
And you're still under.
It's the fact, yes. I just want to add a clarification and one of the following for testimony tonight. Since the time of our initial submission, we have submitted additional documents and plans and stormwater management report, which addresses much of what we're talking about. We have also identified the flood elevation, the base flood elevation, and according to the standards and flood hazard application rule. I just want to assure the board and the public, all proposed buildings are minimally 1 foot above the established base flood elevation, which is a requirement for DP. We cannot get a permit for residential buildings if we don't comply with that. Under DP's review right now to confirm all of our calculations, but we're confident that we comply with those regulations.
Okay.
And I also want to add, as part of the requirements for the flood hazard rules, we cannot displace flood storage from the site, so we are not reducing any flood storage. In fact, for moving our buildings and improvements further from the stream than they are today.
I follow on that was, are those drawings on the website? Where, I mean, where can you review these new drawings?
We've submitted.
So sorry.
We've submitted them to the board secretary, so
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. And have you received your wetland letter of interpretation, and will the buffer be shown on the site plan?
Yes and yes.
Thank you. Now we do that.
Okay. Rosemary Williams. Okay. Michelle Radis.
I'm at the end of the list.
Oh, okay, you were already on, okay. Right? Fletcher Appert.
Fletcher Moppert, MOPPERT. Public Secretary.
Yeah.
I said two questions. Are you guys gonna be using PEX or copper throughout your entire? That,
I don't know the answer today,
really?
really.
When will we know that answer?
When we start getting construction documents together.
One would think with costing a project like this, you would have evaluated that so far. That's fine. Next question. Who's the current owner of the property? At Hopewell 57?
FP Enterprises LLC.
Are you under contract with them?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thomas Farmer.
Can you spell your last name for the record?
Farmer, like in a farm.
Okay. Address,
23 Martin Avenue?
and you swear to affirm to tell the truth.
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
My name is Tom Farmer, and I'm a resident of the borough. My wife and I are also the owners of the building located at 45 East Broad Street, a future small business. Our project, which is coming up on 3 years of construction, has been delayed by the borough and this board several times. And all told, over a year, and delays have been added by the board. We had problems and everyone loved our project. The same can obviously be not said for yours. I believe that much of the opposition to this project is due to the fact that none of the character of the town is reflected in the project. The question I have for the developer is, why do you persist? There are so many valid concerns raised, and so many in the town are against this project. You have the power to work with the borough and make it greater. And you keep digging in and making it worse. You don't seem to want a relationship with the people of this borough, and that's what makes it so incredibly offensive to us all. I urge you to reconsider your approach and make this right in the eyes of the people of this town. Just because it's correct by the law doesn't make it right. My question for the planning board is, how do you feel being handcuffed in a process that took the power out of your hand to effect change? Perhaps you can claw some of it back. You have the great power to slow the wheels of government to a halt. If you can delay a small business because the pitch of the ramp is off by 2 degrees, if you can demand the parking lot being ripped up and rebuilt because it's near 2 feet shorter than you like, then why can't you delay a large unwanted project indefinitely? You made it so painful for us. Why can't you do the same to them? I implore you to use your enormous power to drag this project out from this large unwanted project. Either fits in the character of this town, or the developer throws up their hands,
those blocks are there. Thank you.
My question was
Oh. We can't hear you.
What's the name again, just say?
Con Peters, Con Masters. I know, but he's talking back there.
Can you please state your name?
Yeah, all masters,
Spell last name
masters, MESDERS,
and, address?
106 West Prospect.
Where from, tell the truth.
I tell the truth.
Okay.
So where are the maps, the new maps that were submitted? Are they somewhere on the website already or not?
They should be on the website, yeah.
So they are available for the plan.
So everything gets posted right when we get around. So I don't remember the exact date when it's submitted, but it would have been relatively couple days after that.
Okay, good, we'll look for it. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Susan Clara.
One second.
Susan Clara. President. And, you were sworn in pretty.
Yes, yeah, couple overtime.
You're still under oath.
Great. So I'm still considered a newbie here in Hopewell and I've lived here 20 years. Like Mark Peters does now, I serve on our school board. I've been an active and engaged volunteer in this community. Within probably the first 2 months of buying my first house here, I attended a council meeting. I was told about the Hopewell Harvest Fair, started volunteering there, did that for probably 10 years. I started Food Truck Friday with my friend Roxanne Platt, which was a great activity for our town for 8 or 10 years. I care very deeply about this town. I'm one of the few people that shows up at just the regular council meetings when it's not a big issue. So I care very deeply about this town and nothing I'm about to say is about that I don't want affordable housing here. In fact, I want more affordable housing here. And I want it to make sense for our community and be reflective of our amazing community where people come out and sit for hours and hours and hours listening to this and trying to make sense of it all. I found an email that I sent to the council back in October 21st, 2024, simply asking to table ordinance 891 to just give it a little more time so the community and the council to understand the implications of the traffic, of the environment, of the stormwater, of the schools. So we were just asking for a little bit more time. And what we were told by the council was, oh, it's when it gets to the planning board, that's when you'll be able to have an impact and have your voice heard. Even so far as this past February, Deb Steeler, who is now president of the council, posted on Facebook that now is the time for the community to come out and let your feelings and opinions be known about the design and the impact. And then we get here and as the chair, right, we said like, it's too late because the council passed an ordinance and you believe that you've submitted your plans in accordance with that. So you all are put in a very untenable position. We're put in an untenable position because we trust our public officials. We elect them. Some of us work very hard to elect some of them. So there's a lot of frustration. And I think what Tom Farmer just said about working with the community, not just working with a subset of small group of elected officials. Thank you. So just a couple of things I want to point out, something that I tried to share with the board, planning board before today, but was informed that I couldn't share it that way, so I just want you all to have this information. So this is a comparison of the properties that you submitted as completed projects for Princewood Properties, and in comparison to what Hopewell 57 will be. And you've said that in your, it was either, you said at the last meeting, either your experience or your research shows only 1.4 parking spaces are needed, right? And that's why you're giving 1.5, which is more than enough. But just to make it clear, in the 6 properties that the developer submitted and that you've completed, all 6 of them are within under a mile of public transportation. And 4 out of 6 of them have full service grocery stores, not just convenient market. And the two that don't are 2.2 miles and 1.4 miles. We have no public transportation in Hopewell Borough. We have no full service grocery stores. We have no doctor's offices that people can walk to. So our community is very different than the experiences that you've had and what you've built before. So I hope that you keep this in consideration as you're thinking about these plans. I know your hands are sort of tied, but also bear in mind that according to the 2024 census, 61% of households in Hopewell Borough have 2 cars or more. So it doesn't really compute. Someone last time, Terry Lloyd, talked about the reality, and the reality like of a snow day here in Hopewell, no one's allowed to park on the street. So if everybody's in Somerset Lot, there's going to be no room for your cars that you're allowed to park on the street with. Like it just won't work. Like the math doesn't work. The other very important thing I want to point out, because this is what was presented be greatly appreciated.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you.
James Pagan. James Pagan.
Where from, tell the truth, I think you were short of correct?
So yes. Thank you. So I just have a couple questions on the statement. One of the questions is, Mr. Elbert, you on 2 occasions said that the reason you didn't build on Somerset was because of design. But isn't it really a cost issue? Because building additional building across the street would have to have more electricity and have a significant amount of cost associated with it.
It had nothing to do with cost.
Okay. In addition, you said at one time that you didn't know what the rents were going to be. But you're going to have a $44 million expense, and if you're going to be taking a loan, I imagine, this is what I do, you would have
provided some sort of revenue based on unit type, correct?
Mhm.
Right, also in an article in Mercer Medium, you did actually indicate there would be about $3,500, as I recall.
I never was interviewed by Mercer Mead.
Okay.
I don't know where that comes from.